And a lot of times what we see in the small biz community is we're looking for opportunities to really level the playing field, but by what we can do as small business owners versus some of our large corporate, deep-pocketed competitors. And I think this is really going to be such a game changer for a lot of local, smaller businesses to get the same credibility that those bigger companies are getting through the use of TV.
I could not agree with you more, Chuck. I want to do everything I can to get the word out to people, whether they choose to work with me or not. This is a unique moment.
And now, it's time once again for the show that gives glorious voice to 25 million business owners across the fruited plain. Radio Free Enterprise with Frank Felker.
Thank you, Dude Walker. Yes, indeed, I am Frank Felker. Welcome back to Radio Free Enterprise. Today, I'm bringing you a presentation I made to the Small Biz Virtual Summit in April 2024 on new opportunities in television advertising for small businesses across the country. In this webinar, I introduce you to the amazing world of connected TV and explain its ability to target your ideal prospects on the big screens in their living rooms and bedrooms just as well as, and in many cases better than, social media ads on Facebook and Instagram. Be sure to stick around to the end, where the moderators from smallbiz.com, Chuck Boyce and Ken Massa, ask me some very pointed and detailed questions about exactly how connected TV works and how much it costs.
Welcome to this month's Small Biz Virtual Summit. My name is Ken Massa, and I am here with Chuck Boyce. Today, we're bringing on a variety of guests that cover topics and everyday problems that we face within the business world. But our guests are experts in creating solutions to these challenges. And these challenges may be everyday problems that you're facing as a business owner, an entrepreneur, or someone that works in a very amazing business, but you face problems that we all face. Here is a way where you can find those solutions, where you can listen to those who have experienced the same things that you're going through, and even come up with a solution that may work for you. The world of marketing and reaching the right audience is ever-changing. Typically, you've heard of traditional TV, radio, or even social media and search engine practices to reach your audience. Today, we have a guest that has a wealth of knowledge around a newer type of advertising, which is known as CTV or connected TV, which is more involved around streaming platforms and placing ads on TV screens through the streaming platforms that we see today. I'd like to welcome Frank Felker to our summit today, who has a wealth of knowledge around this topic. So thank you for visiting us today, Frank, and we're excited to hear you present.
Thank you so much for inviting me, gentlemen.
Of course.
I want to talk to you today about what I call zip code famous. It's correct that it's all based on connected television, connected TV, CTV, a lot of different nomenclature around it. But specifically, my presentation is for local business to consumer companies. Now, many of the things that I will be talking about are things that any company of any size could benefit from. But this specific presentation is for local companies, and I'll define that further in a moment, who target consumers with products or services and who are looking to grow. If you're not looking to grow, this is probably still going to be a little bit entertaining, but not something that you will be able to take action on. I have a lot of information to share with you in a limited amount of time. So forgive me if I gloss over anything. We certainly can connect later if you'd like to reach out to me with questions, and there will be questions and answer after my presentation. But I would like for you to for us to just explore this new opportunity together, and I hope you'll find it interesting. So, what is zip code famous? This is a mouthful here. It's geographically focused, targeted and retargeted television ads with lead magnets and special offers. I hope everyone's taking notes. You won't need to do that. I'll be happy to share this slide deck later if you're interested. I'm going to explain what each of these things means as far as the geographically focused, targeted and retargeted, what sort of television ads I'm referring to, and what I mean by lead magnets and special offers. What can Zip Code Famous do for you? Well, initially, initially, it will establish your brand in the minds of your most ideal client profile. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Extremely targeted group of people who are the ones you want to deal with and who have the highest propensity to purchase your product or service. Now, why would you want to do that? Because through this method, you can become the best known plumber, dentist, restaurant, what have you. Again, all local companies targeting consumers with products and services in one or more zip codes. And as I've been working this program, I've found that it's best if you get at least 5 zip codes to get a big enough audience to test and refine your process going forward. Another thing that Zip Code Famous can do for you is, where the rubber meets the road, drive new sales. The fact is that people we know buy from those they know, like, and trust. That's what leads up to the purchase decision. If you think about who you currently buy from, whether it's a large company or small, somehow there was a relationship that was initiated and developed over time. And you're able to accelerate that process with television advertising through a method that's called a parasocial relationship. It's another mouthful, but what it means is you see somebody on TV repeatedly and you come to believe that you know them, that you're not necessarily friends, but that you have a relationship. Example, members of the royal family, the Kardashians, sports figures, and so forth. It's a proven fact that we become, the more familiar we become with someone, the closer we feel to them personally. Now, a big aspect of this is the geographically focused element. And I refer to this as your golden nugget neighborhoods. Now, if you are a restaurant, that's probably the neighborhoods right around you. No matter what kind of business you're in, I hope you're tracking the zip code of the consumers who are purchasing from you. Doctors and dentists target families. That's where most of their business comes from. Certain specialties like cosmetic dentistry or cosmetic surgery, for that matter, are more focused on individual adults. But general practices, family practices, do well with this type of advertising. I'm going to spend a lot of time today talking about home contractors, people like roofers, people who put in new windows, doors, siding, that kind of thing. And one of the reasons why I'm going to do that is because their next sale is often worth $10,000 or more. So as a result, they see their way clear better than others to spending money on marketing. Even so, they're so leads and sales focused that I think sometimes they forget about the impact that branding has on the entire sales cycle, and I'll speak to that in a moment. This is also excellent for real estate agents who are targeting what they call farms, specific farms. But again, if you're only targeting one farm, it's probably just one part of one zip code. And you can have success with this without doubt. It'll just take a little bit longer because it's going to take longer for your ads to get in front of enough people. Now, I want to quickly give you an idea of how different zip codes are different and some are more lucrative than others. If you're already in business right now, and let's say you're a home improvement contractor, you probably have a pretty good feeling where your golden nugget neighborhoods are. They're higher income level. The homes are of a certain age where it's time to replace the roof or the windows or what have you. And it's probably where you're getting most of your business right now. I'm here in Northern Virginia near Washington, D.C. And the golden nugget neighborhoods for the home improvement contractors I've worked with are in places like Fairfax Station, Clifton, Great Falls, a variety of other places that mean nothing to you if you're not from this area. But it means everything to those home contractors because every one of them is fighting to get those deals in those same neighborhoods. And what I want to talk to you about here is how important branding is to differentiating yourself from your competition and being that best known contractor in Fairfax Station or what have you. So I want to show you here quick data. I'm going to go through it quickly and not burden you with it. But the first zip code, this is in an area called Woodbridge. This is the lowest income one that I want to point out. These numbers are not as meaningful until you compare them with the other zip codes. As we start going to higher income neighborhoods, you'll notice that the number of households goes down. That's because there are more single family homes, and that the percentage of owners goes up. And when we go all the way to the top here, and this is Great Falls, Virginia, there's almost no renters whatsoever. And while there are a smaller number of households, almost all of them are homeowners, decision makers, who are the ones you want to get your message in front of when they need a new roof. Now, if we combined all that information together, you would find that the average number of owner-occupied homes in each of these neighborhoods was around 10,000. And I love that because it makes the arithmetic of how this works a lot easier to get your arms around. And you see here that the owner-renter percentage dramatically changes as the income level goes up. So let's use the example. Here's a roofer and what a Golden Nugget neighborhood would look like to them. Let's say right now they're going to Fairfax Station and they're getting 2 jobs a month. And I'm sure any roofer would tell you if they were getting 2 jobs a month from one neighborhood, that would be a Golden Nugget neighborhood. And if you run the arithmetic here, over the course of 4 years, it would be somewhere between 96 and 100 jobs. And if we say $10,000 average revenue, that's $1 million over 4 years. That's a place that's worth investing in. But even with that level of penetration, if we're looking at 10,000 owner-occupied homes in a given zip code, 100 deals in 4 years is only 1% penetration. And if another 4 times as many people as the ones you did a roof for are even aware that you exist, that's only 5% marketplace awareness, which means 95% of the people in that Golden Nugget neighborhood or zip code have never heard of you. And I'd like to point out, put a little salt in the wound, they never will hear of you unless you invest in some effective marketing. Now, this works. Here in the DC area, these are 3 well-known companies. As far as I know, I don't know, they could be outside the DC area. But all of them started as family-owned contractors, and they have grown to multi-million-dollar industry leaders by investing tremendous amounts of money in radio and television advertising. But they blanketed the entire area in order to do that, which means they covered some neighborhoods that weren't Golden Nugget. They showed ads to a heck of a lot of renters. They showed ads in areas where they don't really want to go and service because it's too far distant for them to go. But you don't have that problem. My point is, even with this higher level of cost and lower level of targeting and effectiveness, these people were able to build multi-million-dollar businesses. So let's say back in the day, I just picked 1980 because that's when All in the Family was out. You could reach the entire DC area for 30 seconds at the same time, or close to the same time, if you purchased an ad, let's say, during the 6 o'clock news on all 4 of the local channels. But it would cost a fortune to do that because that's in prime time. And it's not technically prime time, but the people you're looking for are sitting in front of their television. You'd spend a lot. Your ad would only run once. And so if a person didn't see it, it didn't exist. You would reach a lot of unqualified prospects, as I just mentioned, and a lot of coal lump neighborhoods, places you either don't want to service or places where there's a lot of multifamily units or what have you, where you are not going to prosper. But what if there was a way that you could spend a fraction of that amount of money, target only ideal clients, and retarget them. You can retarget people who have watched your ads. You can retarget people who have visited your website. You can retarget people that are on your email list and past clients. And you could co-brand, associate your brand with things like the Peacock Network. I'll talk about other things. The National Football League, a lot of different things. They're not going to endorse you, but you placing your ad in an NFL game or during a particular show on a particular network has a powerful effect of lending credibility to you and your brand. Well, shockingly, there is such a way that we can do all these things. Now we have zip code famous. You target only your golden nugget neighborhoods. You're able to target in many of the ways that we target today on social media: income level, gender, interests in specific things, home ownership status. This is huge. And as I just mentioned, you can retarget people who have seen your ads or people who have visited your website. It costs a lot less than spending money like Len the Plumber and the other companies I showed you, Long Fence, have spent for years blanketing the whole area. And you're not wasting money. So for the dollars you do spend, you're getting more bang for your buck. You're able to saturate those golden nugget neighborhoods. Now, I don't want anybody to get frightened about that. We've all seen certain ads that we see it so many times, we're sick of it. But there are ways that you can limit what's called the frequency, which means the number of times that a particular person sees one of your messages. And if you want to, especially after you've tested which messages, which video messages are the most effective, you can layer on social media later. Now, and this is where I explain a little bit about what connected television is. There are a number of platforms. In fact, I've spoken with executives from all of these companies and several other companies that I haven't listed. There's a wide variety of ways you can do this. And I'll add, you can do this yourself. Most of these people are trying to build a platform that business owners will come to and run their own ad campaigns. I recommend against it. It's not your core competency. Writing scripts, producing spots, managing advertising campaigns, reading the reports, tweaking. You do what you do and let me or somebody like me take care of the connected TV advertising. Now, if you're just sort of dipping your toe in the water, Vibe.co and Hulu have only $500 a month minimums. I usually recommend that you go with a per day budget. So I would say $20 a day, which would be $600 in a month, but the minimum is $500. Mountain, which Ryan, I can't think of his name right now, is the spokesperson for, and a company called TV Scientific charge a minimum of $2,500 per month. They claim to have better targeting and they generate better results. I'll let you know once I've been able to compare them. Now, just so you understand how powerful this can be, Intuit, the people who generate QuickBooks, they have their own advertising platform for TV. Excuse me a second. Perfect timing for me to blow my nose. Pardon me. And they target only businesses. And guess what they know about every business that uses QuickBooks? They know what your top line revenues are. They know how many employees you have. They know what you buy. Of course, as they stress to me, we would never tell you exactly that information for any given business. But I just want you to understand that this is the kind of targeting that's possible. But they want $50,000 a month with a 3-month minimum investment. And a big part of their 3-month minimum, as the guy explained to me, is we need to test. We need to find out what's going to work. And this is, if one thing you come away from this presentation with, it's important to understand that you need to spend money at the beginning of your campaign testing, which means it may not generate any tangible results in the first 2 to 4 weeks. But once you find out what works, you can stop spending money on what doesn't work and only focus your investment on what does work. And the way you got to that point was by investing in testing. And as I say, it's very important. Now, there are over 500, this is in particular right here, is just on vibe.co, over 500 premium networks and local television stations that you can choose to place your ads on. If you wanted to say, for example, in your other marketing, be sure to see our ads on the NFL Network or on Peacock or on Amazon Prime or what have you. My counsel would be, don't do that. You can do it if you really feel like that's something that's important to you. It's available. You should instead test. Run the ads across a wide variety of networks and see what works. And then take back what doesn't work, double down on what does work, and you'll see tremendous results. Now, my system works like this. You start with the branding, and this includes the test period. You want to let everybody in your Golden Nugget neighborhoods know who you are, what you do, what problem you solve, what your special magic formula is that solves those problems. You can include testimonial messages from happy clients, talk about how many 5-star reviews you have, what have you. But I would recommend that you create a number of these types of identity messages, branding messages, and cycle them in your Golden Nugget neighborhoods. While that's happening, people will be visiting your website, either in response to the ads or just the ways they already reach your website. So you need to put that pixel on there, the cookie on there, that tracks people who have come to your website, and you begin to build that audience over time, as well as the audience of people who have seen your ad, so that when you're ready to change gears, you can now offer a little bit more assertive message, which says something like, call this number, visit this website, whatever call to action it is, and get your free lead magnet, which could be a free information resource. If you're a restaurant, it could be a free appetizer with the purchase of a meal. But you need to be willing to offer something of value, of high value. I was working with a woman who has a home cleaning service. And I asked her what the most effective offer she ever did was. And it was $40, whole house cleaning, new customers only, $40. And I said, oh, wow. I said, did it work well? Yes. 8 out of 10 people who got their house cleaned became regular customers. So I said, well, then how long do people stay with you? Oh, I don't know. They stay with us for years. People almost never stop buying from us. Well, we went through the numbers, and the lifetime value of her average client was somewhere around $15,000. Now, I'm not saying she spent $40 and got $15,000 back. In effect, that is what she did, but it was over time and what have you. But even with the net present value of money, that's a trade-off I would do every day. But when I suggested to her that she offer that on television, she wouldn't do it. She felt like it was just going to cost her too much money to make that offer. And yet the fact is that every person who took her up on that offer was letting her into their house and doing business with her and seeing firsthand with their own eyes and ears. And one thing I learned with the cleaning business, their nose. They come home to a house that smells clean, and they love that, and they want that again. So from my perspective as a marketing person, of course, I'm not going to have to go in there and clean the floors. It seemed like a bargain to me, but I feel as though she wasn't willing to acknowledge what's called customer acquisition cost. You have to invest in getting customers. So many of us are willing to invest in equipment and overhead and employees and this and that. But if you don't have any customers, you don't have a business. So get down off my soapbox for that. So you have to then retarget people with something of value. And the people who step forward and raise their hand and say, yeah, that's of interest to me, they just qualified themselves further. You already knew that you were only targeting people who are homeowners in your Golden Nugget neighborhoods. And now this person's raised a hand and said, I'd like that free resource about avoid the 5 biggest mistakes most people make when they get a new roof. That is a person who is thinking about getting a new roof. Then you take that list of people and target them, not immediately, but whenever it fits into the system, with a special offer. Buy today and get, $1,000 off your roof, or upgrade your shingles, or what have you. I don't have time to go through every possible iteration of this, but I think you see where I'm going. Now, a lot of these same things could be done through social media. And as I mentioned before, and I'll say right now, you can always add social media later. But I recommend you start with this because television has a much higher level of perceived value. When I see you on the big screen in my living room, or I see you on the big screen in my bedroom, or see you on the screen when I'm at the sports bar, I'm like, I don't say wow, but it just signals to me. It's a trust trigger. Those people are professional. Those people know what they're doing. And little by little, you get those 9 messages through somebody's consciousness, and it becomes ingrained in them. They recognize your name. They know what you do. And that's the first step for them thinking of you and making you the easy choice when they have the problem that you solve. Another very important point is that almost nobody is doing this right now among small local businesses or businesses of any size. It's almost brand new, I'd say, last 2 or 3 years at the most. And because of the challenges of writing and producing effective ads and creating, managing, and reporting effective campaigns, advertising campaigns, that's enough to keep a lot of people away and think like, this is not something I should even consider. The fact is that the connected television, CTV, has a lot of the same features that social media advertising offers relative to targeting, retargeting, etc. But everybody and their brother and all of your competitors are on social media. They're not on television. So here's what I would recommend that you do as next steps. Identify 5 to 10 zip codes that are your Golden Nugget neighborhoods. Request the data, and I can include, or you can reach out to me. There's a source that I use that gives you an unbelievable level of data on a statewide basis that's broken down by zip code. I want to say it's $199 a state. Choose your zip codes, commit to $20 a day, as I said, or more, and give it 6 months. It's up to you, but $3,600 spent to become the best known company of your kind in your Golden Nugget neighborhoods sounds like a bargain to me. Certainly, the more you spend, the faster the benefits will accrue and the deeper penetration you'll have in terms of marketplace awareness. So that's what I have for you today. And I'm wide open if anybody wants to reach out to me offline and set up a meeting to discuss further.
Well, Frank, that was certainly some great information. And a lot of times what we see in the small biz community is we're looking for opportunities to really level the playing field, but by what we can do as small business owners versus some of our large corporate, deep-pocketed competitors. And I think this is really going to be such a game changer for a lot of local, smaller businesses to get the same credibility that those bigger companies are getting through the use of TV.
Well, I could not agree with you more, Chuck. I mean, to tell you, this is an opportunity that, as I say, it's almost the best kept secret in digital marketing right now. But I want to do everything I can to get the word out to people, whether they choose to work with me or not. This is a unique moment.
Frank, you touched on this a little bit, but I want to highlight this because I've heard this question come up before around this topic. I think that there's a misconception that by doing an advertisement on TV, it's excessively expensive. Can you just touch on, and you did bring up pricing and the minimum entry point here, but can you touch on the difference between traditional TV and how much that might cost compared to a CTV type of environment for advertising?
Most, as you know, most advertising is sold on a cost per thousand basis, which means the thousands of people, the number of thousands of people who will see your ad. And generally speaking, it's been my experience, and I think that CTV is putting a lot of pricing pressure on traditional television. But you're spending about the same price per thousand. The difference is you're targeting tens of thousands fewer people or reaching them, and which is perfect because you only want to reach your prime client profile. You don't want to cover all DC. So I would say on a unit basis, it's the same cost, but on a out-of-pocket basis, it's apples and oranges. It's whatever you'd like to spend, but you can certainly spend 5% of what it would cost you to run an ad on television, or you can spend 10%. The difference is remarkable.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're just really becoming more confined with your audience, and you're putting the commercial in front of the users that you dictate based off of the geographical and demographical information that you're looking for that fits your target audience best. So that makes a lot more sense. You're basically confining your budget to the perfect person, which I really like.
That's right. And when you think about it, as you refine your audience, it goes beyond the zip code to just people who responded, or just people who watched your ad 10 times previously, or just people who visited your website. It just makes perfect sense. And I think there are so many benefits to it, it almost seems too good to be true, but it is true.
Yeah, I do agree. Another question I have is, with just the amount of platforms there are in streaming today, there's different networks like Hulu and YouTube TV and Peacock and Paramount Plus and all of these different networks. How does someone, from a business perspective or from a marketing perspective, how does someone dictate whether one platform is more sufficient for their audience over another? Or do you say you test them all and then they basically find what one is the best performer from data? What would be the approach there?
I've given that question a lot of thought, excuse me, and I appreciate you bringing it up. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which network you're on. What matters is, and I learned this with YouTube advertising, I would be shocked at some obscure channel that somebody saw my ad on and then it converted. I never would have picked that channel. So we certainly cannot dictate what our prime clients are watching on television. And I would submit that even though they may meet our prime client profile, out of 100 of them, probably no two people have the same viewing habits. So it just comes back to testing it. And because it could be different based on your industry or your message or your gold nugget neighborhoods. The only way to find out, and any seasoned digital marketer will tell you, you have to test. You can't kid yourself and think you know, because you don't know until the results tell you.
So Frank, can you hit a little bit about, we all know roughly kind of what social media ads cost from a production standpoint, and the production quality expectations on a social media ad, specifically in video, I think are lower than what we would be expecting to see on a connected TV ad. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the costs that go into the production versus, what we might be able to, quote, get away with on social media?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? Well, there's a couple of ways. Because I literally started shooting video in the 1980s, I've learned a thing or two about how to do it inexpensively and yet professionally. We're all aware that there are things, stock footage houses and this kind of thing, where you can get unbelievably high quality footage of, let's say, people watching television or a family playing in the park or whatever it is. And combine it with either a faceless voiceover person or a head and shoulders talking head type thing like this. Or in some cases, and we all remember the family-owned car dealerships back in the day, where my daddy is the biggest Chevrolet dealer in all of Northern Virginia. So that's certainly an inexpensive level of production quality, and I'm not sure how effective those ads were, but they might actually have helped brand the dealership as being family friendly. What I'm driving at is, just like with your monthly budget, Chuck, and I don't want to dodge the question, I'll give you a couple of examples, but just like with your monthly advertising budget, you can spend whatever you like on production. But I will tell you, this is something I've learned the hard way over the years. Spending more on production does not necessarily result in a more effective commercial or a more effective video message of any kind. I was recently shooting interviews on a trade show floor using an iPhone 11 on a gimbal. I had an associate with me who was shooting the video, and using wireless microphones that are the size of a quarter that cost $179 for the whole set of two. And we have come away with some incredible content from that. And people these days are accustomed to webcams and dash cams and pylon cams and garage cams, you name it. So they're less attuned to production values, which is what you're referring to. Back in the day, the expression network production values was real, and it was difficult to try to produce video that met up with network production values. But today, it's not. And you don't have to have a giant digital camera. There's a camera called Red that's unbelievably expensive. And I would submit that you can get 95% of the quality that an average person could perceive using the latest iPhone. So I would say that if you were to come to me and say, okay, I want to create 4 spots, and this is separate from your investment in the advertising, I could do 4 spots for you on the low end using the lesser expensive stock footage iPhone talking head approach for $5,000 to $6,000, something like that. And if you wanted, me to come to your location and bring, camera and sound and lights and be there all day and shoot several things, we could spend at least $10,000, and we could probably spend a lot more than that, depending on what was going to be involved in the shoot.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of insight there that is very helpful for a lot of companies, because I think that there's a misconception around the quality of production that's needed in order to do this. And I think that halts a lot of companies from getting started with something like this. They think that they need this massively high production quality video in order to do something like that. So I appreciate your insight on that, because I think it'll allow a lot of others to realize that you don't need to have an extraordinary production in order to enter this. I have a part 2 to that question.
Okay.
We've had a lot of guests that were presenters talk about AI. Are you seeing any companies using AI technology to help with the production side of video creation to get the commercial ready?
I'm seeing a lot of it. I'm not seeing a lot that I think is effective. One of the most important things about video is that in-person connection, that parasocial relationship, if you will, where we connect with each other as human beings. Now, I would be willing to say that within 5 years, and maybe a lot sooner than that, you literally will not be able to tell the difference. But right now, both the script writing and the bot presentations, they're just a little bit off. And even if you don't know that it's all fake, you're not feeling it, if you know what I mean. You're not getting a good feeling. You may just be getting no feeling. In the future, that could be true, but the other thing I would say is, then you got to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you could outsource it, I suppose, to a company that does production that way. But so far, at least, I don't think we're quite there yet. But it's an apt point, and I think it's worth considering and keeping an eye on going into the near future.
Okay, great. Thank you for the insight on that.
Well, Frank, you certainly have shared with us a wealth of information, and we really appreciate that. I really think this is going to open a lot of business owners' eyes into seeing what's truly possible now with connected TV, and that it really doesn't have to be that expensive and certainly can fit within even the most modest of advertising and marketing budgets.
Yeah.
So we're going to make sure that all of your contact information and so that people can reach out and connect with you are here in our show notes. So that'll be on the page wherever you're seeing or connecting with this episode. Frank, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us here on Small Biz.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much to Chuck Boyce and Ken Massa from smallbiz.com for inviting me to present at their virtual summit. And thank you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Frank Felker saying I'll see you on the radio.
And now, a man who maintains a shrine to Mark Cuban in the basement of his suburban home. Frank Felker and Radio Free Enterprise.